we're gonna start now. Corey's gonna teach some amazing Berimbolo stuff, if I'm not mistaken, Corey. Yes. So yeah, you came all the way from Montreal. You know, my brother from a Canadian, from a Quebecois mother. Yeah. Yeah, give it up for him, and I hope you all enjoy it.
Alright, so what's up guys? My name is Corey from Montreal. I'm a black belt and I train and compete full times for my living. So this is really cool. Thank you for coming to the seminar. And we'll go over some stuff that I like to do. When I give seminars, I try to go over a couple of concepts to kind of guide us through the seminar first. So the first one is organization. The reason I'm going to talk about that is because when you come to seminars, you're going to learn a lot of stuff. Like you're going to learn a lot of stuff over the week, and even today, maybe a lot of moves, right? So maybe you won't remember all that stuff. And that's okay, because when you're learning this much content in the course of a week, what's really important is like to see how experienced teachers organize their stuff, basically, right? Like, what are their orders of operations? How do they weigh things, right? And I don't just mean like a flow chart, because that's one part of it, like how do we map out our game, right? So that's organization. But also like, how do we evaluate problems, right? How do we weigh the solutions to those problems based on like some guiding principle, like what's the easiest or what do I have the most confidence doing, all right? So I want you to pay special attention to those things, right? The order of operations, not just in steps, but in terms of priorities and goals, okay? And how I organize the variables in each position, why I want to do one thing versus another. Pay attention to that and then try to take that into the design of your own game. Okay, and we'll do some drills to help you kind of learn how to build out your game. But those are the things you're gonna take from the week. Okay, because again, you're gonna learn a lot of moves. You probably will not remember all those moves, right? But if you can leave a camp with just a mindset of like, how do these guys think about jiu-jitsu and build their game? Can I do this myself in my own context? You'll become a better grappler just by having that, all right? So we're gonna do Berimbolos today. Now, the arguments you'll hear against like that kind of jiu-jitsu is maybe it's not like fight applicable. And what I'd say to that is like, you don't have to fight that much. One, if you do, you don't have to use Berimbolos. So build your game on like simple fundamental stuff and you build towards complexity, right? The reason that sport jiu-jitsu gets super complex is because people defend the simple stuff well. So some guys will just continue using very simple combos like faster, harder, right? Others will be like, okay, can we make this situation more complicated and see if they can keep up with me? Those are just two things we can do, right? So you don't have to use this type of jiu-jitsu. You can be really simple in your game and be really effective, but it's fun, okay? So it's effective, at least in the sport context, and it's enjoyable. And if you're gonna do jiu-jitsu for a long period of time, you wanna have fun, you wanna be learning new shit, you want stuff to push you to solve problems, not just to spend your whole life in half guard, okay? Which is, like, if you like that, no problem. But for me, I'm not the type of person who just likes to just be effective. I like to be effective, but I like to be progressing. I always like to be feeling like I'm getting better at something. And this is something that's gonna take you a really long time to get good at. There's gonna be a super high technical barrier, okay? So with that said, let's get started. So who can I use here? Raul, can I use you? Do you mind? Can I use you? You're getting taped up, right? Is anyone here like familiar with bolos? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Let's go. That's gonna be cool. Okay, so can everyone do a Granby roll? Like, go for it. Make some space, do a Granby roll. Okay, not bad. Can you guys stop? Either flat on your shoulders, or if you're really good, tilt it on one shoulder and then swing it legs down to the ground. Now, wherever you drop your heels, that's where you're gonna sit up, right? So if I drop my heels straight, I'll sit up straight. If I drop my heels on an angle, I'll sit up on an angle. So play around with this. Okay, cool. So those are obviously prerequisites. Now, Berimbolo is a very popular technique in the gi. You have fabric for handles in the gi, okay? We will go over like the basic De La Riva entrance, but I do think that what's made this so important in the meta is the fact that we leg lock effectively, all right? So most of the Berimbolos you see will not be you and De La Riva taking a guy down to his hip and then starting and initiating and finishing a Berimbolo on the back. We still need to learn how to do that, right? Because it's kind of a door into that whole world. But most of the bolos you're gonna end up using effectively are gonna be like off failed sweeps, knockdowns, someone knocks you down, or you're in leg locks. So these situations where you end up both on your butt, or one guy is attacking the other guy's legs, because essentially when I go into a Berimbolo, I'm entangling our legs. If he's trying to entangle my legs, he's gonna give me a lot of the same looks, just with slightly different angles. And if I can recreate a better angle on him, I'll be able to use that to take his back. Okay, so we're gonna go into the traditional bolos, but just so you understand kind of where this exists and why it exists, and it's been popular in the gi for a long time, why were we not using it in no gi? That's how the meta ebbs and flows, right? Like sometimes we come up with something entirely new. More often we come back to somewhere that we've been before because something that we learned changed the context. You know what I mean? So Berimbolo is not so great, no gi. Oh, now all of a sudden people are attacking your legs and getting their ass up in the air. Well, maybe now they're not so bad. Does that make sense? All right. So let's start with just you're gonna send your butt with a De La Riva hook from seated guard or double seated guard. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap my leg around his calf to calf, and I'm gonna connect my toes to the inside of his thigh. Okay. Now when I do this, I want as much connection as possible and as little space as possible. So maneuver yourself until you feel like every part of your leg is connected to every part of his leg. Okay? I'm gonna grab the heel and I'm gonna grab the quad with my finger, all my fingers on the front. So my fingers are like facing up. Okay? If you wanna cheat, you can grab your pants, but you're not supposed to. Okay? Now, this is where I'm gonna initiate my inversion. Okay? To make this easier for yourself, don't use any momentum. Fall to your shoulder, and from your shoulder, extend your foot through to the hip so that your toes are pointing down. I'll show you the other side after. Okay? So you feel like you're hooking his hip and pull on it. Make sure you have that connection. Okay? From here, we're going to go into our inversion. I'm going to use my foot on the floor or on his leg. That's my base. That's where I'm going to generate my power. I'm going to push off with that and with my elbow. Okay, so my elbow opens against the mat. See that? So push and open. And now this foot's going to pull and my head's going to go to the hip. So my head aims for the hip, my foot pulls, my foot pushes, and my elbow opens. Okay? From here, what I want you guys to do is either reach around the back, if you can reach it, and if you can't, hug the leg and hop yourself a little closer. Then you're gonna reach around the back. And where we're gonna end for this technique is instead of staying straight on my shoulders, I'm gonna go to the inside shoulder, and I'm gonna lean this whole leg on my partner's chest and torso. I'm aiming the outside of my foot for their shoulder, like that. My knee makes contact with their hip. We're all different lengths, right? Your knee could be next to their hip, could be on top of their hip. But it needs to be touching their hip. Okay? So wherever it fits is fine. My whole leg is leaning on it. When I tilt my hips, my partner supports my weight. So stay on your posts, supports my weight, so my hips can't fall. If you're saying, why is he doing this? We'll talk about that after. Okay? But for now, just so you can learn the position. The last step from here is going to be to curl this leg back, like that. And you should feel that there's a strong tension in the top part of their leg, like their femur. Okay, so when you push this heel down a little and you drive that knee into their hip, you should feel like their leg is like very stiff. Okay? So let's go back. Grip, grip, set your hook. All right? From here, we're gonna push and get onto our shoulder. No momentum, nothing like this. Okay? Extend your hook and pull their hip in. We're gonna use that as a pull the whole time. We're gonna push off the mat, open our elbow, and our goal is to get our head to their hip. Once we're there, we reach around, pull ourselves in, and we lean on our angle like this, as if we're trying to bring our hip to our elbow. Okay? From here, curl this heel back until it feels so tense that if you did drop your heels, his hips would start to lift. Okay? That's what we're gonna go for. You guys think you can do that? Okay, so reaching around back. So this is when we talk about like organization, order of operations. When you get into a situation, not only this technically dense, right? But there's a lot of moving parts and you're upside down, okay? So there's a, like, I've never trained anything that there was a higher barrier to than Berimbolos, right? What I mean by that is that any other technique, I was able to get it live sooner. And that gives you the confidence that it's good, right? Because it's easy, right? This isn't easy. It's not gonna be easy. Okay, it's gonna be difficult. What's the advantage of that? Most people won't do it. Most people won't put the time in to get great at it. In no-gi, there's maybe 15 people at the top level that are really, really good at it. It's probably it. There's probably guys that are okay at it below that. I'm probably okay, you know? But most people are just not gonna even understand what's going on there. So it's a place you can go to have a real technical, like 50-50. 50-50 is like that, you know what I mean? Where you're very evenly matched and it's just who knows more is gonna, that advantage becomes bigger in places where technique is the main thing going on, okay? So that's gonna make it confusing, right? And what's gonna make it less confusing then is having a clear order of operations for yourself and not just steps like 1, 2, invert. That's necessary, right? What's gonna make it easy for yourself are having clear goals that direct you one or another direction. Okay, so when I invert, I want to get my hand behind his hip. If I can't get my hand behind his hip, we're going to go into completely other movesets after. If I can get my hand behind his hip, we're going to Berimbolo him, no matter what. Because even if he falls, we'll still be able to bowl him. If I get that grip, he can't go anywhere without going over a speed bump. So his hips will always be able to make them light, if that makes sense, right? So what I suggest when you're learning this is like that's your first order of operation. That's your one. When you invert, when you're looking for a bolo, you reach around the back. And if you can secure the grip around the back, you're gonna attack the bolo. And if you can't secure the grip around the back, shit's gonna get way more complicated because now you're not only dealing with like objective variables, you're dealing with a lot of subjective ones. What do you like to use? Because there's a lot of answers to those other problems, okay? So, I achieve this grip. There's one of two techniques I'm going to use when I achieve this grip. The first is he's supporting my weight, okay? And this won't be long. Like if I get here and I haven't fallen yet, I'm going to go into this technique right away, right? I'm going to reach for his far leg and I'm going to curl my heels back a little bit and that's going to start to lift him in the air. As soon as his hips are off the mat, you can see they're off the mat, I'll transfer the far leg to a crab hook, and what I want to do is use tension here. Okay, so feel that his knee and your knee move together. Right? If you get sloppy here, it'll not only not work, but it'll probably get countered. Okay, because that can happen. So use that tension then to carry his hip over your hip and your back. Okay? Let's do this from an angle. Okay, one more time, go over the steps. So, grip 1, grip 2, and your third connection is your hook, okay? We get to our side, we find the flank with our toes, we push off our partner to get up on our shoulders, our elbow helps, and our head aims for their hip. We find their far hip with our hand around back, and that keys us in that we're going to attack a berimbolo. Okay? With our weight leaned into them, we curl our heel back. Mostly this one can come a little too, but your connection with the hip is what's important here, and with the body. So you don't want to send this down. Okay? This one you can curl. And that weight alone, if this tension is right, will elevate the hip. You can pass the leg over to the hook, find tension in the hook first, play with it, and then throw it over. Okay? Last time. Let's give it a shot. Be honest. Now start moving that, transition. And we're gonna go into now a stomp mechanic. It's the same bolo, you don't have to progress. And this is the thing with today, right? Because this is super complicated. If you feel like you didn't get the last move down you want to, just keep working on it, I don't care, right? You're here for you to get better at jiu-jitsu. So I'm gonna show a bunch of material, but like probably a couple people keep up by the end. Right? And like, you don't have to at all. Like I said, organization, order of operations, and then the moves that work for you. Just focus on those, okay? So, people were already asking me like, is it like, do I prefer this way of doing it? If you do, like, objectively it's first. That doesn't mean that you have to do it first, or even that it would be objectively best for you. What do I mean by that it's objectively first? We're attacking this position, they stay in this position. So in that sense, it's the first thing we need to do. Most people go right to a stomp where they stomp their feet on the ground. We're gonna do that now. Why would that come second? Because if you're learning, you'd be completely foregoing an easier move that comes first. Easier, higher degree of control, harder to counter. Doesn't mean like better, it's probably not better. This is probably the better one, you know? But point is, like, it's just for building out a system. And the way that I teach my students to build out systems, like you watch DVDs, you watch live film, you learn moves from all over, right? Like when you're learning something new, try to learn like the like, consensus best way to do it, but don't be stuck on that at all. Like the reason I say that is like, there are objective reasons why most people do things most ways, okay? And that's also a super big trap in a game that's more complex than any of us can possibly understand, right? So it makes a lot of sense to build out a system and do things the right way. It's not really the right way. The way that makes the most sense in the most context for the most people, learn that, or at least pay some attention to it. But then when you start to attack the moves, and you notice that based on my body type and how I feel against people, they respond with move 4 first, or defense 4 more often than 2. That should be your one. Right? So you rebuild things for you. But it's really hard to rebuild things if you don't know what you're doing. And it's really hard to be creative if you fucking suck. Right? And so my point, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm trying to say that like, if you want to express yourself, you have to like be able to pass with pressure, retain your guard. Like if you don't have those set of skills, there's no self-expression. You're taking low-hanging fruit and thinking you made a choice. It's the only thing that was available to you. You start making choices when you have some command of the situation. And then you get to express yourself, and believe me, that is like so fun. And there'll be some people you'll roll with that you won't be able to do that. That's the game. You'll roll with some guys and they'll just crush you. You know, so you'll really just be falling back on your best defensive concepts, right? But you want to get to a point where you roll with a lot of people and you're able to like truly discover you did a move you liked and not realize like you were attacking that and you could have done something else. It wasn't the only thing you know. You know, like that, you'll get a feeling in you that you won't get doing other things, right? So again, one is the grip around the back. That's what sets us into a bolo, but there's 2 really good ways to do the bolo. And one comes before the other chronologically, like I'm explaining, but you could skip the one I just did and go right to this if you like it, all right? So this is called a stomp. People have different names for it. But essentially when I lean into my partner, if they give up their structure. They start to fall. So if I'm against more structure, I'll use that crab ride. If I'm against less structure, here we're gonna stomp. Now if he had fallen and I didn't have that hand behind the back, it would make more sense to do other things. Okay, because our hips are on the same level. And if I start trying to like throw in hooks and shit, this is totally 50-50. It's gonna become very close to 50-50. It's very, very even. Okay, I wanna start attacking him hard when I have his hips like up stacked or loaded, right? So here, they're loaded. They're on my arm. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place the top leg, right? This is the De La Riva leg, this is the top leg. I'm gonna place the top leg, my foot as close as I can get it to my butt, which I have a knee problem, so that's as close as I can get it, right? And as close as I can get it to their flank. So their flank is their whole side, my butt is, you know what that is. So heel in, we're gonna step right next to him, like this, toes facing his head, right? Now this foot is gonna fucking stay there. Don't move it, it sticks. If this isn't the problem, if you're having a problem, that's not the problem, okay? That's the fulcrum. Okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this leg over this leg with this leg. So my De La Riva leg stomps, and the closer I get this foot to this foot, the higher their hips will go. Okay? And with their hips up, I can literally just put my hands on their hips like this, elbows on the mat, they're stacked. Alright? Now there are different ways to climb in bolo from here. I'm going to show you one and then we'll explain some climbing details after. But the easiest one for me is to tighten my knees and windshield wiper my feet. I have a twister hook now. Right? As I'm extending that twister hook, I'm going to reach. For now, let's say that the bottom shoulder is available. Right, so I'm going to pull with the bottom shoulder till I'm up to my elbow, and now I'm going to move my hips away. Why? I don't want to take the back in a position where he's going to easily then just re-escape the back. His hips are in not superior position to mine, but they're not controlled, right? So if I get my hips away, get his hips to the mat, now I collect the rest of my back control. Okay, you can take whatever clinches you like. So what this looks like all together, if I like invert and lean the weight, right? So step one is you grab that back, you know you have it. You're leaning weight. For now, what your partner's gonna do is they'll wait till you lean the weight, then they'll fall. Okay, and then you could eventually just try to learn to read it. Here, don't do one of two things. Don't stomp right where you are. Don't send your legs across like this. This is what most people do. They try to throw the person. Right? This is where you get counted. Back step, come on top. I'm dealing with the leg like that. So that can happen anyway if someone's good, but we're trying to avoid it. Redirect your feet. Throw your hips towards your partner's hip. Okay? Stop. Push over to stop. Keep him up. Hold my feet in. Reach for his bottom shoulder. Pull myself up to an elbow, and now push and move yourself away. He'll fall. You collect an excellent back control.
Over on the, like when you've got the foot stomp, because one time your leg was wide, the other one your leg was pinched. So I just like don't quite understand.
No, I mean, when I'm explaining it correctly, my knees are always pretty close together. Okay, so if they appear not together, it's only because it's a scissor. Okay. You know what I mean? Like you can squeeze like this if you want, but I'm scissoring. I'm trying to bring them as close as possible to each other, but one over the other, not pinching like this.
And then you put the feet together too.
Yeah, the closer you can get. Think about it as like their leg is wedged in between your legs. The closer you get your legs to each other, the more stress you're gonna put on them. They're gonna really come up in the air. Okay? Now here, for now we'll just go bottom shoulder. I'm gonna explain that second. So grip the bottom shoulder, up to an elbow, and away. Okay? Don't take the back with your bottom leg controlled, basically. Get your hips higher than your hips, and then collect the back. Let's give that a shot, guys. your body. I want to perpendicular to his head. You're doing the same technique though, okay? So you won't have to extend. We're just going to talk about like climbing handles. What are you looking for? What are you trying to get to? And what's better than what? Where's the hierarchy there, right? So the reason I said bottom shoulder is because like if you can grab their bottom shoulder, they can't pull their bottom shoulder away from you, their back remains exposed, right? If they're like one of the directions they might try to be going, especially with the Berimbolo, is back to the mat. Someone wants to escape you, they're just going to take their back to the mat, or they're going to take their back to the sky, but they're going to take their back away from your chest, that's for sure, right? So in this case, because of the position we're in, oftentimes it'll be back to the mat, right? So if I could prevent that by getting their bottom shoulder, like now trying to get back to the mat, that's going to be hard, like he's loaded on me, right? If I grab his top shoulder, maybe he can slide his back to the mat. Now you still have other attacks from here, from truck and stuff, it's cool. But my goal when I start getting to a position is to take everything, right? Like, to give nothing, take everything. I don't mean you don't have to take that to your whole life, I don't. But it becomes a necessity if you're training with people that are good enough and you want to be able to hang with them. You realize like whatever you give them, they'll use and they'll get out. So you learn to understand the landscape of a position, try to take everything away, and then start making choices based on what's going on. But at first, look to shut down any possible direction of escape, right? So if we can get that bottom shoulder, that everything becomes a lot easier, but it's often not the case. So if I can get that bottom shoulder, I can pull myself up on my elbow, I can move my hips away, his hips sink into dominated position, and now even if he tries to get the bottom shoulder away from me, I'll be able to chase it with the overhook and pull it with the underhook, I'll be okay. So that's great, but what if, and it's more likely, you're facing this sort of situation, that bottom shoulder is no longer available. Okay.
Could I ask one question?
Yeah.
What was the thing you want to get first? Is it first your legs,
right
out, or okay?
Good question. You could do either. So I don't have to switch to a twister hook from here. If I secure his back, I could pull myself up, move my hips away, and my leg will become a traditional bottom back hook. Okay. What separates a bottom back hook from a twister hook is only angle. Right? If I have a bottom back hook and I'm perpendicular under the hips, I have a twister hook, right? And that's not like just some 10 planet shit. It's just, everyone calls it that. Like I train at AOJ, you train at Marcelo's, anyway, they'll call it a twister hook, right? So this is the twister hook. Now it's a back hook. That's it, right? Unnecessary probably, but it is what it is. So do I have to switch the twister hook first? I don't. I like it. Right? If it's not available, we'll start climbing the back. And treat this a little bit like you're rock climbing, but the wall's moving and it's trying to knock you off, you know? Like, the problem is dynamic, it's changing. It's not gonna stay static. Okay, so you have these multiple static paths to get there, but really what you just wanna know is what handles are better than which handles, and you wanna take the best available handle and follow through till you have it back. So I'm showing you 3, right? The first one we know. The second one, let's just get you here, is to just go top hand to underhook. Pull the underhook to lift to grab around the neck. So if I'm in a bolo, and it's only his top shoulder available, top shoulder to underhook, pull the underhook up to collect the neck. One more time. Let's do that over here. Top shoulder, underhook, lift. Collect the seatbelt or the neck, okay? Now, the last one, and you don't all have to do all these, right? We're talking about climbing hierarchy, so I'll show you the last one. But those 2 are probably enough in most cases. Sometimes you really start like losing, gripping, and they're escaping your bottom hook, like this. In these cases, right, go with the top hook around the back of the neck. Hook their leg. And you'll be able to carry them back over. So I won't go into detail on that too much, but there's really 3 ways your hands are gonna progress up the back. You're gonna get the bottom shoulder right away. You're gonna get the top shoulder, pull to an underhook, grab around the neck, right? Or if the shoulder, you're really starting to lose them and you're losing the bottom hook too, you'll cross grip. That's like a desperation. Like, I'm gonna get something super strong to stop you from taking your shoulders away, then I'm gonna chase you. All right, what that looks like again. Right, so you don't have to really go into the third one if you don't want to, but those are the 3 main ways that you're going to see people climbing the back. Right, so go back into the Berimbolo, play around with the grip sequences, and just, it's fine at first to just use one you like and go with it. All right, let's do it. So lots of stuff happens after you can't get that back grip. I don't think that there's as much objective hierarchy in the system then. I think that people really start to impose their preferences at that point. So there's a few variables. When we're talking about like organizing your variables, right? There's a few variables once you get upside down. First is, can I get the back grip or not? That's a variable. Could work in their favor, could work in your favor, right? Let's say I've missed that. Okay, what's the next set? Well, now there's a bunch and they're not so heavily, they don't outweigh each other so much. They're kind of even, right? Are they moving away from me? So are their hips staying still or are they moving away from me? Where's the weight distribution in their hips? Are they leaning on their hip towards me or are they leaning on their hip away from me? Right? Can I access their far leg? Yes or no? Right? Those are the main 3. There's others. But when you get into a position, like how you build out your system is you arrive in the position and you organize yourself. You look at each one of those variables, which one's accessible. At first, we try to come up with someone else's model for that, but eventually we make our own based on our own experience in the position. So this is what I'm trying to teach you about kind of getting better, right? So now, like, you know, the hat's off, right? We missed that grip. They went to their back, and we're here. It doesn't seem like there's really that much advantage in it, right? From this position, you have a ton of options. Like you can go into crab ride, and you can go into stacks and crab X and all kinds of cool stuff. And at first, that was the first seminar I designed. Actually, we're gonna do that. But then I want to show you the basics of this. And this basic seems like crazy, right? But these are Berimbolo basics, but they're advanced basics. I want you to get an understanding of the shit that's gonna happen the most. And then there's plenty of guys that'll give you references you can watch. They got good stuff, super complex, and tons of fun stuff. But I want to answer what I think are the most common scenarios first. Okay, so even if that's not as cool. So when I invert, what I find the most common scenario, most likely, against somebody who knows what I'm trying to do with them and doesn't want to be involved in it, they want to be uncooperative, okay, is that we end up on our hip, they end up on theirs, they start building their base to their shoulders or to their elbows, right, and they start, well, maybe more, yeah, and they start moving away from me, right, like that, yeah. Now, if I look this way, when they move away, it'll kind of force them to look this way a little bit, and their leg will extend, and I'll be able to get this overhook on their leg, okay? Once I have this, I'm gonna get up on my elbow, and I'm gonna start to build my base backwards and to the mat. So my knees and face go to the mat, and I start moving my hips backwards like this. Eventually, I'll be able to windshield wiper my leg to keep this space open in front of their hip, set my angle, and drop my knee over their head. I can now let go of this leg, and look where we are. We're in a stomp, we're just on top. Right, so post, roll under your post, redirect your feet, and go through the same thing we've been going through up until now. Okay. So, I miss the back grip. Okay? I miss any opportunity to stomp or switch to another variation of the bolo because my hips hit the mat. and they're trying to get away from me, right? They're trying to take their hips away. So I'm gonna overhook the leg, get up on my elbows, and I'm gonna move my hips backwards with my knees on the mat. From here, eventually I'll be able to windshield wiper and step all the way over. Okay, I back myself up with my post till I'm ready to let go. As soon as I let go, post, and I roll under. Okay? When you roll under, send your elbow as deep into the pit of your knee as possible. Right? And don't swing your legs over this way, guys. Like this. Okay? Redirect your legs to their head and stomp the same way we've been doing. Heel close to butt, heel close to their flank, foot doesn't move. De La Riva leg stomps over their leg and tries to mirror your stomping. Okay? Push them up, get up on an elbow. If you can reach that bottom shoulder, your money. Just move back, set your bottom hook, and collect the rest of your grips. So let's do this one more time. Miss everything, he's moving away. Overhook and turn. Get up on your elbow. Get to your knees. Walk back. Post. And stop. Okay, so full speed once. Alright, so another shot, guys.
Okay. A couple things that'll make this easier for you. I'm still not fully understanding the overhook at the beginning. Like,
The overhook is to stop them from being able to move away from you or to counter you. Like,
is it this?
it's just a regular overhook, so you don't go scoop up or just grab it. What makes it available? So, again, like, we're not gonna go by the people that are feeling the most mental pressure necessarily, but how many of you guys are completely saturated? Like, you feel like you just can't learn any more technique? Okay, a couple of you. So those of you that are, don't. Just keep doing the techniques you have been learning so far. I'll teach a few more, and I'll stop there because it is overload. And remember, the point is to see that organization and those order of operations, but for you guys that do feel like you're under too much pressure now, like, it's fine, tap out, keep drilling the technique. The best people I've trained with in the world, like, they're working on one or two details like all day. You know, they're not like learning 40 things. The camps are for this. You're here to be like mind blown with a bunch of information, it's fine. But my point is, like, don't feel bad about not keeping up with the rest of the class's pace, because the best people aren't feeling bad about that either. They're just focused on their own learning. That's how they get good. Okay? So, you guys see that leg drag is obviously a good place to go from Berimbolo. And I'm sure that if you study any Berimbolo, that you've seen that there's like the knee wedge bolo with the knee wedge down to the knee. Okay? You could just go to this. You could like invert every time and go knee wedge because you like knee wedge, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If you want a reason to go there, it's because they're interfering with your top leg. Like, that's a reason. You don't need a reason because, like I said, it's an alternate entrance, so you can just do it. But if I'm inverting and I feel that they're grabbing my top leg, usually I'll pull it back and I'll stick it under their knee here, and I'll use the pressure of my knee and theirs to push their knee out like that. Okay, and now you can see here I came into a crab hook. There's all kinds of stuff we can do from here. A lot of the time, I won't have the opportunity to take the back right away. So what I'll do instead is switch these hooks. Okay, so right now, this bottom hook, it's like a counter pressure between the hook and the knee. The knee's on the inside, the hook's on the outside. I'm gonna switch this off to basically the opposite, where they're actually the same, it's the opposite side. Right, so knee pressure inside, hook pressure outside. Now I'm gonna switch it to this side. Okay, what I'm gonna do with this leg is I'm gonna kick them out and they'll move a little bit, like they'll spin on my arm. Right? That's just gonna make it a little easier to access the upper body. It's not a huge deal. Right? From there, guys, try to establish a grip first to come up if you can. Sometimes you're just fighting out with whatever you can, but if you can establish like a claw grip, like under their arm and across their body to hook onto their shoulder, that's great. Okay, and then what you can do is use this leg in the ground like you do with a butterfly sweep to build your base. And we're up in leg drag. Okay? Now from leg drag, you could just pass. Right? And to pass, essentially you're trying to get weight over their far shoulder. They might turn, maybe the back, there's other stuff, right? But you essentially want to get your head across their far shoulder, and that's where you're going to be able to secure your pass. It's going to kill frames. They got frames, you drag your head over their far shoulder, the frames off and collapse. Okay. But, so for some of you then, how about like that's it, you're going to do that. You get up to leg drag and go from there. But I know if you guys follow like the meta, you see Mike Gabao often now going leg drag to crab ride to that, right? And I know that for those of you that know crab ride, you can connect it to other places in the initial bolo entrance. So I want to just cover how we could get there. Okay, so this is one way to get there. There's a bunch of ways to get there. So when I'm trying to build my base in leg drag, one of the main problems I'm going to face is people putting their hands on my face. So 2 hands on my face, like right in my ear. Yeah. And depending on where my head's getting driven, there's other stuff you can do. But if it's really getting pushed back this way and they're strong, and not only are they pushing it, but they're opening their knee into my body, I can use that pressure to roll. And this is called inverted leg drag. Okay? From here, there's like crab X and reverse crab X stuff we can do, but honestly, I have not seen this transition a ton live, Nogi, but what I have seen live is just as you're rolling, you switch to your crab hooks. Now once you get your crab hooks, you push them and you get up on your shoulder. Like this. Okay? Now your bottom hook, your knee is on the mat. Your top hook, that same pressure, knee into the knee, hook flares. This makes it very hard for them to try to pummel out of that. Very difficult. Okay? And we're up on our shoulder instead of like here. Honestly, don't play crab right here. Unless you're like putting an X in and doing something specific, but don't just hang out here. Get up on a shoulder, it's way better for your neck, and it does what you want to do, which is puts pressure on them to do something, right? So now if he pushes back into me, I will take that pressure, I'll sit up and I'll carry him out. And I'll take it back, okay? So, make what you want out of this, right? You can keep working the previous techniques. You could just go to leg drag, or you can go all the way through, but it is a lot. So, as we're inverting, he's messing with my top leg. So I'm gonna lift his leg and insert my leg behind his, shin behind shin. If I can grab his far leg too, that's good. As I fall, my hips fall, I press my knee into his to carry his hips away. Okay? Now this hook that's flaring in gets switched off to this hook. And now I use this to push him a little further. You see his shoulders come closer to me. Set my grip and start to work up. From here I start getting pushed. So I hook onto his hip, right? Remember your partner is gonna push with 2 hands and with their knee. I'm gonna turn, and as I roll, I'm gonna be switching to a stomp and to a hook. And I can come up into crab ride. And if you over rotate, that's fine. Land here and just come back up. No big deal. All right? From here, guys, knee into their thigh or their knee and your foot flex. He kicks into me. I take that pressure and I use it to carry him off. All right? Pull him back, put a hook in, drop. So, all together. Let's go again here. Good angle. Let's give that a shot. Just some tools, we're gonna play a game, we're gonna try to bully your partner, right? So it's have a couple tools for you to counter them. Obviously, you know that you can move away from them, right? We know that already. You know you can grab their top leg, right? We did a counter to that, so obviously that's something people do. When we get in to actually, you're gonna bowl a mirror now. Yeah, go for it. Okay, so when someone gets into a bowl on you, okay, go ahead, yeah, convert. Okay, so like what do I wanna do? Well, I wanna control their top leg. It's easier to bowl with somebody from here than it is for them to bowl with me. That's the fucked up part. Because their hips are in the air and mine are on the ground, right? So if I can move this leg away and get my knee behind it, they're bowling, okay? Now, that's why a lot of those other techniques exist, the knee wedge and stuff like that, because if you're bowling somebody who is good at it themselves, you probably will use a different moveset to get to your final goal. You'll probably accept a lot of body locks and leg drags, score your points, right? The back take's gonna be a little bit harder if you're fighting, you know, Levi or something like that. So, go ahead, yeah, throw your bowl in. So what I wanna do is throw in a knee wedge, okay? That knee wedge allows me to maneuver my hook into place. So let's come back. Let's go into a stomp position, right? It's the same thing here. If we're in a position like this where we're both pummeling, if I get my knee in, I'm gonna win. Okay? If they get their knee in, no, your knee?
No, me.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Right, then I'm in trouble, right? If that knee goes in, I'm just gonna try to push it off. So it's a battle of who's getting their knee with their outside leg behind their opponent's knee. Okay? So like you guys can literally start in these positions to play with this idea. Like if I get my knee here, I move his hips higher than my hips, I get the angle, then I'm gonna put the twister hook in. Alright? So that's one. So a knee feel it goes in there, you kick it off. You just get it off because you won't be able to counter the next step so easily. Right? Now, if I get the twister hook in, right, how can he flip that on me? Do you know how to flip that hook? Okay. So what's he doing?
He's putting your ass over his belly.
Good. He's stacking me. He's getting my hips in the air. If I'm in a twister hook and I take my feet to his shoulders, he has the dominant hook, but I have the dominant hip position. Hip position is better than hook position. I win. Okay? So it really just comes down to the physics of it. Right? Hips are more powerful than hooks. So even if I'm losing the hook battle, if I get your hips above mine, I'm going to switch my hooks. You're not going to be able to stop that. Okay? So if you're in a twister hook, go ahead and put me in a twister hook. You can do it. All right. So if I'm in a twister hook, right? If I wasn't, I would be doing what? Trying to get my knee under it. But if I'm in a twister hook, I'm already caught. So I'm going to bring his feet to his shoulders, switch my hips. Okay? Now the last one's a stomp. If someone has the stomp on you, so go ahead and go to a full roll on me. And you go to stomp. Okay. So when someone does stomp, if you grab their leg, they might decide not to stomp. All right? But if you grab their leg and they continue to stomp, you just pull your knee behind it. So go ahead, try to stomp me anyway. I'm here. And now the bowl is gonna be hard for him. If I pummel under his leg, I'm gonna be able to roll. And it's actually more complicated back effect. Okay, so you got cool stuff from there. You don't have to do that right now, obviously, but just put your knee wedge in. Understand that at least. Okay, so go for the bolo again. Actually, we'll do it on the other side if you don't mind. So go on this side. Yeah, let's see. I think we can do it. Okay, so you're turning here and you're stomping. Good. If he's stomping, I'm holding on to this leg. Just go ahead, stomp. If he forces the stomp, he's going to carry me up. So if he doesn't, he won't be able to. If he forces the stomp, he carries me up. I get up to my knees. Fold under. Look under the leg I'm grabbing. Roll myself through. And now I'm in a crab X and I can lift you up. And now you're stacked on me and I can put in a hook. Okay? So that's just like showing off, honestly, but but my point is, like, there's stuff we're not gonna get into today, we've gone too far, but there are the 3 simple things, like knowing that grabbing his leg, pulling it, wedging your knee in, right? Knowing that whoever has the knee wedge is sort of gonna either win the bolo battle or escape the bolo battle. And then knowing that if you're in a twister hook, carrying your feet to the shoulders forces the switch, right? These details plus the climbing details are the details you'll have a hard time finding. Okay, they're not easy, not many people teach it. And even guys who are good at it, they're good in the gi, they have sequences, and no gi, they're all of them are just like, I just climb. Which also isn't bad advice, that's the truth, like, just climb, you know what I mean? Like, for those of you that are confused and want to go try this live now, because we're going to, just climb. That's like not even bad advice. It's just that if you want to get better, you need sometimes more specific instructions. Okay? So let's play around with knee wedging, like both your legs are free. The knee wedge to counter bolo, right? Knee wedging to carry yourself up when you've been stomped, and reversing the twister hook. Like even you could pick one and play with it, or if you're familiar, you can play with a bunch of them. Let's do that. From this one, throw them up. If your head's outside, throw them away. If your head's under them, you start like load them. Like from here, look, kick them out, like literally away, and then climb, fighting to get out, like get up to the knee. Yeah, and like chase the chair sit or something. Yeah. It's a normal play. Where you? Okay, guys, you and your partner are going to be. You and your partner are going to be basically in this position. Some people call this twister battle or inverted cat dog. You grab each other's hips. Like Eddie calls it the twister battle, and I think Lachlan calls it inverted cat dog, and I know Hafa calls it twister battle. So there's different names, but if you're berimboloing, you'll end up here, right? So from here, you know, knee wedge gets you to twister hook. Sending feet away from the twister hook gets you to your own twister hook. So counter mine. Yeah, good. Right? And again, like, don't be afraid to exaggerate it. Throw their feet all the way down before you switch. You have a clean switch. Okay, or I could throw the other leg over and I could stomp. But if I stomp, you can grab my foot. No, grab the other foot. This, yeah, and throw your knee behind it. And I'm gonna stomp you and you're gonna carry yourself up. And again, from here, it's a lot easier too. I should have showed this, but just grab an underhook. Reach around, hug me. Yeah, like go into body lock passes from there if you don't want to roll back under. I like going back under. Here's the thing too, dude. I'm enthusiastic about this stuff because I like doing it. It's fun. I enjoy rolling and trying to do really complicated stuff. But you make it as simple as it's going to work for you because that's actually what's important. Right? It works for you, makes you feel like you're getting better. Okay? So we're going to start in that position. And if one of us gets to the back, gets into a leg lock, comes up on a pass, okay? Then we'll reset. Try not to just like vacate, run away, stand up. Like get into it. And honestly, always get into it. Like when you're training for a competition, it's fine to like just work your best shit, but that sucks. Like when you want to get better, like get into situations consciously. Go looking for them and go spend time there. You're not gonna get good anywhere you haven't spent time. Make sense? Let's do it. You spend the whole day either learning how to take a back or learning how to get out of the back control. So, you know, when you're rolling, try to take people's back, and then they take your back, try to get out, right? You get better if you reinforce some of that information you picked up. This time we're kind of tight. I'm going to teach another seminar in 2 days. It's going to be a lot simpler. It's front headlock, nothing crazy, but super effective. Definitely the thing that I've used the most are back takes and front headlocks to win matches. So I'll stick with that, and I'll have a lot more time for Q&A if you want to do Q&A. Think about this stuff, sit with it, write it right down, come in, and we'll do like a good half an hour Q&A after the second seminar, because today was super dense. There's no point in me answering more questions, you'll know that. Thank you for coming. It's a cool camp, and hope you guys have fun. And I'll stick around and roll for as long as I'm permitted. So maybe we do 4-minute rounds. Is that cool? We switch it. The reason is just so I get round into more of you guys. Because I'll try throughout the camp though. I'll try to roll with all of you. Okay, I might not get it all today, but I'll try to roll with all of you. Let's take a picture. Thank you guys.
Now go get the crazy roll. Now go get the